In our finding, we give the importance to the dynamics also.
So Robert May missed the dynamics.
Dynamics. In our mathematical framework, there are two terms. One is corresponding to the self dynamics and one is corresponding to the interaction dynamics.
It should not be competitive, it should be symbiotic, related to Buddhism.
Yeah.
Buddhism is the best religion for our population. This is a great problem. So from India, it's very difficult to publish
because
a paper.
easy
to publish paper through international collaborations only.
Human brain is also very complex because it is made of many interacting neurons.
What the parents say, you are very successful.
Now they are happy and
now they are happy with the
they
girl
give the
child.
example that he has done this much, but at that time they didn't support.
Have you ever wondered how a rainforest, a bustling city, maintains its stability amidst constant changes? 3 years ago, our world was affected by COVID pandemic, and most of us feared that half of the population may be wiped away, but most of us are still here. How can the social media networking, the ecological food webs, and even our own brain stay balanced and stable? Welcome to Asianet News Online and get ready to explore the fascinating world of complex networking systems with our guest today, Dr. Chandrkala Meena, Assistant Professor at IISER, Trivendrum. She is the leading author of the research paper titled Emergent Stability in Complex Networking Dynamics, published in Nature Physics Journal last March. This paper gives a clear-cut answer to the long-standing paradox, stability-diversity paradox, which puzzled the scientists since Robert May put forward his theory in 1972. Dr. Meena, welcome to Asianet News Online.
Thank you very much.
For our viewers, let's begin by explaining these complex terms. That means, what do you mean by a complex network?
So complex means like many elements in a network are interconnected with each other. So the large number of interconnections leads to the complexity. So there are three different terms: complex networks. So means so many.
That means large systems.
Yeah. So
with the diverse constituents.
So diversity in the
can be considered as a complex system.
Yeah. So diversity in the number of connections.
So if we consider our ecology as a complex system,
yeah. So it means in ecological network there are
size is huge.
Size is also huge, and the number of connections also very high. And the entities inside a network are very diverse. They follow the diverse network properties.
So how can we identify whether a network or a system is complex, or what are the key characteristics of a complex system?
So in the simple system, like the entities in a network have only few connections, and all nodes in a network have the similar type of properties. But in the complex networks, different nodes in a network have different network properties. For example, some nodes have more number of connections, but some nodes have less number of connections. Some nodes have the more clustering, some nodes have less number of clustering in that sense. So when we plot the degree distribution of such network, then they follow the power law distribution. So if the network follow the power law distribution, then such type of network we call as a scale-free network.
Also this term emergent stability.
Okay, so emergent stability means system become stable by following the self-organization process or by self-adaptation.
That's related to the structure of the system.
Oh yeah, it is related to the network structure as well as on the dynamics also. So like when we study this emergent stability, then there are two basic ingredients. One is the network structure, that we generally also call as a network topology. And second important
that is the members of the system or the constituents of the system. In an ecology,
in the ecology,
the
species are known as
are
the
the
nodes.
topology.
So when how the species are interconnected in a network, that construct a topology.
And the internal dynamics is
so
the
internal dynamics depend on the how the species is behave,
interact with one another,
and how they are interacting. The interaction, what mechanisms they follow when they interact with each other in a network structure.
So taking the example ecology as a complex network or our ecosystem or the food web, how one species, the species determines the topology and how it interacts with one another, determines the internal dynamics. Is it correct?
So the topology means like how they are interacting with each other. So like in the food web system, the the primary producers are connected with the primary consumers, and the primary consumers are connected with the secondary consumers. So how they are interconnecting with each other, that is corresponding to the topology. And what is the behavior, like primary consumers behave differently and secondary consumers behave differently, that is their intrinsic property, how they behave. So that is corresponding to the dynamics. So when we want to study such a food web system, then we have to know about the network structure as well as the dynamics, or as well as the dynamical behavior or the behavior of the species in a network.
So this behavior of the species to one another may be competitive or symbiotic.
It can be like competitive, it can be symbiotic, it depends on the what.
Okay.
So within the level, like one tropical level, they can interact mutually. But when they connect across this level, then they are like predation prey, predation prey type.
So concluding the description of these terms, I understood that the characteristics of a complex network is the size of the network matters and its diversity. So these are the two main factors or main characteristics which determine whether a system is complex or not.
Dynamics also.
Then the factors are topology, shape and the internal dynamics.
Yeah.
Then you used a model to study this. Yeah. What's that model?
We have considered several network structure. Scale-free network, and then Erodus-Renyi network structure, and the random network structure, and on the top of that network structure we have put the several dynamics that mimics the different type of system. For example, this disease spreading model, we have used the SIS dynamics. For the regulatory gene regulation, we have used this gene regulatory model. For biochemical study, we have used this biochemical models which mimics the protein-protein interaction. And for this artificial system, we have used these power grid systems and population dynamics to study the biological system.
What is the common factor among all these models?
The common factor is that
is there a common thread connecting all these models?
So when we want to study different models, different systems, then two things are common. One is that they follow a particular network structure. So that is common. So majority of the system follow this power law distribution. So they are the scale-free network. So we have considered that all these systems are the scale-free network, and on the top of that we have put the dynamics according to what system we want to study. For example, if we want to study this biological system, then we have put the population dynamics. Suppose if we want to study this power grid system, then we have put the different dynamics on the same network structure. So our theory tells that underlying the same network structure, if we put the different dynamics, then the behavior is different.
No, I am asking you about the model, mathematical model. What is the common feature of that mathematical model for all these systems?
Okay, so in our mathematical framework, there are two terms. One is corresponding to the self-dynamics and one is corresponding to the interaction dynamics.
Self-dynamics means an oscillation of a
self-dynamics, what is the individual behavior of the of the node in a network. And the interaction term is how the species or how the entities inside a network are interacting, what mechanisms they are following.
Whether it is competitive or
Whether
symbiotic.
it is social interaction, biological interaction, chemical interactions.
All that. Coming to the real networks, first we consider population. What are the key factors that determine the stability of the population?
So in the population dynamics, the carrying capacity of the population should be less than some threshold value. So, and the interaction between the species should be the symbiotic interactions.
Symbiotic.
So, or mutual interactions. If the
So it should not be competitive, it should be symbiotic, related to Buddhism.
Yeah.
Okay. So Buddhism is the best religion for our population.
Yeah, you can.
Generally, how we classify these complex systems, like according to their stability.
Okay, so we can classify in these three terms. One is unstable, one is sensitive stable, and another is stable.
On what parameter you classify this?
The stability or the prediction of the stability depend on the both basic ingredients which I told you earlier. The stability depend on the two basic ingredients. One is the network structure and second is the dynamics. So it depend on the both parameters.
How do you call a system sensitive? On what parameter?
So like in our model we have also incorporated the external parameters. So when we classified the stability of the system as a sensitive stability, then for this class of the stability or the stability of the system depend on these external parameters. So by changing this external parameter we can change the stability of the system. So they are very sensitive towards this external factors.
So if the system is sensitive to the external stress or any force,
then we cannot say that in the
stable.
When the system is very large, then it will be guaranteed stable or guaranteed.
We cannot guarantee the stability. But
by simply tuning this external parameter, it can be falls in the stability region or it can fall in instability region.
Unstable.
So like this power grid system, we have observed that it lies in the sensitive stability class.
So power grid system lies in the sensitive stability. Pandemic, here the factors, can you describe the factors when a pandemic
the pandemic is
the spreading of a disease.
The spreading of the disease. So in the spreading of the disease, the external parameters we have assumed are the infection rate and the recovery rate. So the recovery rate
determines the dynamics. Infection rate and recovery rate determines the dynamics of the system.
These are the external tunable parameter. By changing the infection rate and the recovery rate, we can this can affect the system, but
we can regain the stability of the system by changing these parameters, infection rates and recovery rates. So you gave an example for sensitive system, that is the power grid. Can you give an example for an unstable network system?
Some systems are multi-stable system. Multi-stable system means they can fall in one category of the steady state. So if we assume if we want to study when the system is in particular stable state, that can be stable state for that system. But if the system is another state and it can be like unstable, it can generate the instability in the system. So like so far in real system we didn't observe anything, but like by changing the basin stability regime of the complex system, we can shift the system from unstable to stable.
Can you observe the weather?
This weather phenomena is very complicated. So far
is it stable? Can be categorized into stable or unstable?
Right now it is very difficult to say because in climate modeling we didn't study first of all. Yeah, by I don't know in which category it will falls.
It will falls. Then stable systems.
So stable system, whatever like a system in our paper we have studied this 7 models, and out of 7 models, 6 models are stable.
Are stable. Other model, the
This
seventh
power grid system is sensitive.
unstable. Which are those 6?
So one
systems.
is this SIS dynamics. This is corresponding to the evolution of the spreading of the disease.
Spreading of disease.
And second is the population dynamics and population inhibition dynamics, biochemical dynamics, and gene regulatory dynamics.
Can you explain this biochemical dynamics?
Okay, so like when protein interact, then some protein can degrade. The concentration of the protein can affect by the degradation of the protein or dimerization of the protein. So when we include, the protein concentration depend on which parameters. If we want to study such model, then this type of model we call as a biochemical dynamics.
Brain, the most complex
Brain.
system in our nature, our human brain.
Yeah. So
Can you
human
describe?
brain is also very complex because it is made of many interacting neurons, and
So the neurons are the
neurons
topology.
Neurons are the nodes,
nodes,
and the structure of the brain is the topology.
structure of the brain is the topology.
So in the brain there are neuron and synapses.
So the dynamics.
So the information flow from one neuron to another by connecting these two neurons by synapses. So this connection process and which neuron is connected to which one, this all we call as a network structure, and the particular nodes inside a network is a node. Like particular node in a network is represented as an individual quantity.
So what's the reason for madness? When brain loses its stability, people become mad. So how?
So maybe lose of the functionality of some neurons.
Loss of some neurons.
Functionality of
function.
some neurons.
So the
So
loss.
in brains there are so many regions. So some regions are responsible for particular activities, and some regions are important for another type of activities. For example, these regions, and these are corresponding to the one type of region in our brain. So like if we lose the stability of that region, then we can become the mad, but we can see because other function is working. So it depends on the which region got disturbed.
So how can we maintain the stability of our brain?
Okay, so to maintain the stability of the brains, we have to make sure that every neurons in a function, the neurons inside the brain or inside the regions are working finally, or like it is so far so many studies have not been done on the brain because it is very complex.
Then coming to the key question, how you solve this puzzle? That is the stability, diversity.
Okay. So in 1972, the Robert May posed a question: will a large complex system be stable or not? So to answer this question, he mapped this ecological system and he tried to solve this question. So what he has done, he took the random matrix ensemble, Jacobian ensemble. So in our, according to this linear stability theory, if the principal eigenvalue of this Jacobian matrices is negative, then the system will be stable, and if it is positive, then the system will be unstable. So according to his construction of this Jacobian matrices, he find out that if we increase the network size, then the system loses its stability, but that result was in contradictory with the ecologist study. So since then this diversity versus stability paradox originated. So after his study, many studies have been done, but everyone has considered this topological effect only. As I told you that the actual behavior of the system depend on the both topology as well as the dynamics, but no one had give the importance to the dynamics. So in our finding, we give the importance to the dynamics also.
So Robert May missed the dynamics.
And in the subsequent study also they have missed this dynamics behavior. So initially he took the random network structure, then in further studies, like people thought that the network structure is not random, but they follow the power law distribution or scale free properties. So further people, instead of the random network structure, they took the power law distribution network, And again they have changed this prey predator things, mutualistic things. Again the problem was same, but in our study we have considered both the effect topology and the dynamics, and we have constructed this Jacobian matrices using the information of the topology and dynamics. So our Jacobian the entries in our Jacobian ensembles are not random, but they are strongly intertwined with the topology and dynamics. So when we construct the Jacobian matrix using our theory, and when we find out the principal eigenvalue, then if the system in reality it is stable, then the answer is from our theory is stable, and if in reality is unstable, then the answer from our theory is it is unstable. So our theory proves that. So like so our theory tells that whatever the construction he has done, Sir Robert May, that belongs to our unstable class. So his results is right, but the way he has constructed the Jacobian ensembles, that is not correct to map a ecological system.
For the stability of a system, not only we need diversity, but the interactions also are important.
Yeah.
And that interaction should be mutually beneficial for the interacting species or any constituents.
Yeah, so far we have studied only the mutual interaction part, but we didn't include this competition part. So this is my further research plan, that if we
So
want
your further research plan is about competitive
Yeah,
interactions. Okay, but in the food web, in the ecology, it is competitive interactions
Yeah.
usually, not symbiotic.
So inside a tropical level there is mutualistic interaction, but across the tropical level it is like competitive interaction.
So the environmentalists say that every species are important for our ecology. What's your theory says? Does every species important to the stability of our environment?
So in our theory we didn't consider several type of dynamics. We are just focused only one type of dynamics in a network. So far my understanding, everyone is important, but from current finding we cannot say anything.
If one or two species become extinct,
So I have some preliminary results. So according to our results, if few species goes extinct from the community, then it doesn't affect the stability of the ecological system.
so how can we determine which species is important or which is less important for the stability?
So for that, like first we have to know that which species is more important from the real observations we have to consider.
So in our biology classes in school, we studied that in the food web, human beings at the top. Does it mean that human beings is the least important in our ecosystem? Because most important are at the bottom of the topology, that is the bacteria, etc. Then the plants. Last
I think
come
that is
human
for the
beings.
survivalship of the human beings. No? So
No, I mean the environment here or the ecology, for the ecology here. Which species, can we say that human beings are the least important among the species for the survival of our ecosystem on this planet?
that though I am the physicist though, so I cannot give the answer correctly, but like according to that ecologist can give the better answer.
No, your model says that extinction of one or two species which are less important may not affect the stability, but the extinction of an important species
So
may
in my
affect
model
the
we have
stability.
considered the dynamics of the similar type of species, but in the food web the species are the grass root and the different bacteria, the dynamics will change. So if we want to study such a model, then we have to consider different type of dynamics inside a network. So far our study only focus on the similar type of species.
Then what about social media networking?
Social media networking. So
What's the stability of this social media networking? How can we maintain the stability?
It depends on the many factors, individuals' behavior, individuals they put the content on the social media.
That is the what type of information is passing, whether it is
so like the followers are interested in taking that information. Is that information are relevant to the followers or not? And whatever the current scenario is going, if they are posting that the post on that content or not. So it depends on many factors. So we cannot predict like for the social
considering
media.
the sociology for the stability of our societies, human societies.
So the human society is also the stability of the human society is also depend what type of cultural they are following. So it is
What type of interactions they are
what type of
following.
interactions are there. So in society also like they follow some common rules. So if someone tried to disturb that common rules and regulations, then the stability will affect. But if everyone is going through that rule and regulation, then it will be maintained.
So is it a sensitive system or a stable system?
We can say it is sensitive.
Sensitive. So India is one of the most diverse countries in the world. So what about the stability of India as a whole? We are multilingual, multi-ethnic, multi-religious,
So
many language, many cultures.
So but in India like we are very diverse in terms of the cultural and language and geographical location and everything. But like if we respect of each other's feelings, rules, regulation, then we can maintain it.
So if we follow symbiotic relationship,
Then we can maintain the
so
stability.
it's also a sensitive according to your model.
But like sensitively is slightly changes in the external parameter. So like some systems stability doesn't depend so sensitively on the external parameters, no matter how much disturb with the external parameters. If it is in reality it is stable, then always it will show
So
the
can we
stability.
hope?
So far like the Indian social societies, so far we didn't see any drastically changes. So like it can be
So India is more
asymptotically stable.
So India is asymptotically stable. So there is hope for our country.
Yeah.
How can we build these our digital networks resistant to any cyber attacks?
To protect or to make more resilient this digital system, first we have to understand the important factors in the digital systems, and we try to protect that important parts of the digital system. Then only we can make the resist.
Can
the
you
system.
explain more that?
So for example, in the digital system, for example, if you consider the example of the server.
Server. Okay.
So in server there is one man computer or machine, and other computers are connected with the server. So all computers give a command to the server, and whatever the calculation and everything is done on the server, and then result we can take back from the server. So this server system, if we want to protect this server system, then we have to protect that original or that server part, not only this computer part. So to protecting that server,
So protecting
is
the server is the most important. How do you your research paper challenges or expand the current knowledge of our complex systems for ecology or food web like that?
If we want to study this biological system, then we have to understand how the entities in a biological system are interacting, what mechanisms they are following. So if we want to understand the mechanisms and connections part, then we can model the biological system using our theory, and whatever the phenomena or stability, if we want to study such system, then we can predict or we can study using our theory.
So can we come to a level that we can develop immunity to viral fevers like that?
Okay. So to develop the immunity for a particular viral, is first we have to understand the biological process which are going inside our body. So suppose a virus attack on our body, then how?
I am asking not about a particular virus, for resistant to any virus attack.
Yeah, resistant to any virus. So suppose any virus has attacked on our body. So first we have to understand the our body is the made of many amino acids and proteins, and how the proteins behave. So the how this suppose any virus, how it attacks on the human's immune system, which parts they affect, and how fast and how slow it affect to the human immune system. According to that, by understanding the biological process or pathway of affecting this virus to the human body, then by understanding these mechanisms, we can model, we can construct the mathematical model parts, and by simulating that results, we can find out the.
Okay. Now the climate change, considering our environment as a complex system, the climate change is an external factor affecting its stability. It affects our population, our food web, our food production, our industrial production, everything. So it affects our stability. So how can we tackle this? Do we need to fear one day climate change will wipe out us?
So this climate change is a global phenomena. So mostly the climate is changing because of the increases the concentration of the greenhouse gases in the Earth's atmosphere, and this the concentration of these greenhouses is increasing because of the deforestation or burning of the fossils. So the climate changes is dependent on many things, and these are the basic things on which it depends. So when the climate changing things happen, then it affect the temperature patterns and precipitation patterns. So this temperature fluctuation, precipitation patterns also affect the migration of the population, breeding patterns in populations. So these all are consequences of each other. So if we want to control these climate changes, first we have to control our deforestation of the deforestations, and we have to control on the greenhouses concentration in the atmosphere.
So we have to control deforestation and greenhouse emission. That's the solution for the climate change. Now we face many problems such as human wild animal conflicts, that is wild animals coming out of the forest and creating problems in human habitat in search of food. So what's your opinion on this?
Actually, for that I think that we are also in some sense responsible, because we are also destroying their natural habitats.
We humans destroying their natural habitat, so they coming to us.
That can be one causes, we in order to protect this, we have to make the policies, and with the government and local.
The policies should not be human centered. We need sustainable development. Every species to be maintained.
Yeah, so we have to spread the awareness that the coexisting of the human life and wild animals is very important to survive for this ecosystem.
That's a very important point, coexistence of human beings and wild animals.
So we have to understand these things, and we have to tell the importance of these things to the local communities, so that they also understand the importance of the wildlife, and we all can contribute in saving each other's lives, so that we can survive for the longer time.
Okay. Did you hear about our famous tusker Arikomban translocated to Tamil Nadu? What's your thinking when you heard about that?
My thinking is that we have hurted his feelings, so we should we as a part of the ecosystem, we have to care each other's feelings. So
we should have symbiotic relationship.
So we have the symbiotic relationship. We have also we have to respect of his feelings, and we have to put him wherever
we have to respect his feelings to live in his own natural habitat. Can we do some or in an application level, That is, nowadays social media campaigns are much important for the election victories. So, do your model suggest any application or applies for a social media campaign to increase the popularity of a political leader, or in a business level for branding a product, so, or to increase the social media followers of a particular person?
So like my theory takes three parts. One is topology, network structure, second is the dynamics, and third is the external parameters. So if we consider the network structure is same, because whatever the population is there, they all are remain the same, we assume, and the behavior of the individuals is also the same, like whatever the behavior of the human beings, that is also constant. So now the victory of a person depend on these external parameters, how at the last moment which trend in the how they are trending in the social media, is their views or their thoughts are liking by the followers or not. So depending on these external things, the victory can affect, and this can affect the these elections in India.
Does your work has any implications on the hot topic chaos?
Yeah.
Can you give an example?
Yeah, so like all these systems are chaotic systems, because when we the chaos means like
Which type of system belongs to this chaotic system?
So
stable, unstable, or sensitive? Which one belongs to this chaotic?
unstable.
Unstable. Okay.
So like the chaos means like when we change slightly from their in the initial state, then their future is unpredictable. So that means the chaos. So so in our whatever
butterfly, the famous butterfly effect.
Right, so
can you explain that famous butterfly effect for our viewers?
This was observed by the Lorentz. So so like he run some simulation on the of this butterfly model, and one day he run the code, the simulation, and he observed some patterns. Next day he forgot what the parameters he has used, so he changed some initial condition, and next day he observed different behavior. So that leads since then this chaos behavior is originated. So like if something changes in the initial condition, we doesn't know the behavior of the system, so that refers as a chaotic system. So in our system also, like when we change the initial condition, so sometimes we enter in another region, and if we change the initial condition, then we can enter in the another region. So these are the examples of the chaos.
Can we relate this to a personal level? That is, childhood traumas may later affect the personality of a person or the behavior. That is, a person becomes a criminal or a good person depend on the experiences he received during his childhood or the budding stage.
Yeah,
so is it relatable?
Yeah, it is in some sense related, because whatever the care we give child in initial, it affect his nature in the future.
So it's applicable to the family system
but
also.
Like it is predictable, because if we are giving some type of care, if we are giving good care, that means we can assume that he will be a good person. So that is like predictable, but in chaotic it is not predictable.
Now coming to the personal level, please share your details, your native place, your family, your education.
I born and brought up at my native place, Mainpura.
You are from Rajasthan?
I am from Rajasthan.
This Mainpura is rural or urban?
That is very rural.
Very rural area.
Okay. And this is in Rajasthan district. This is in Savai Madhopur district in Rajasthan state. And my primary education was happened. I have done my primary education in Mainpura schools, and for further study I went to Bharatpur, that is my boarding school. And after 12th I passed this IIT JEE exam, and then I took the admission in the IISER Mohali.
So in the first chance you got admission to IIT after
Yeah.
the first.
And then I have studied this BSMS graduation and PhD also from IISER Mohali.
Okay.
Then in the IISER Mohali I came to know about this research and everything.
So in the IISER Mohali you come to this stability dynamic properties.
No. After when I joined the postdoctoral research for the postdoctoral research in Israel.
So you went to Israel for postdoctoral research.
Yeah.
How you got the opportunity to go to Israel for postdoctoral?
Okay, so my research area was aligned to the Professor Baruch Barjal. He is my postdoc supervisor in Israel. So I approached him and he finally...
No, what's about your research during the PhD in Mohali? Same.
Nonlinear dynamics.
So
and
you got
complex
contact with the scientist in Israel.
systems. Yeah.
So you went there for postdoctoral research.
Yeah, and finally I got the
university?
fellowship also that Israel government used to provide for the postdoctoral research, and they select from the combined India and China as a student. So I was one of the luckiest person in that. So I got the fellowship, and using that fellowship I started my research career there. So after 2 years, I spent 2 years there, and then I come back in India as a Inspire faculty. So I joined in Pune, and this research was carried out after coming back from Israel, and finally.
So you carried the research after coming back to India also.
Yeah.
And you are the leading author of this
Yeah,
paper.
I am the first and leading author and corresponding author also.
We are proud of you.
Thank you very much.
What about your family?
Yeah, in my family, my parents are farmer, and we are 5 siblings. But my maternal uncle took
You
care
are
of
the
me.
eldest one.
I am the eldest one.
An eldest one, a daughter. How is that?
Yeah, that is the toughest part in my life.
Please explain if no problem.
Yeah, sure. So in Rajasthan, people don't become happy when
A girl child is born.
when the girl child is born, and at that time it was very bad situation. Nowadays it is okay.
So it affected you also?
It affected me also. So,
Then who took care of you?
So when I was, my mom was pregnant, so that time somehow they came to know that she will give the birth to the girl child. So my mother came to my maternal uncle's family, and at that time the lady didn't spoke that much. So she also keep calm, and she was not saying anything to anyone. But one day, my mother.
Okay.
So, but one day she informed about these things to her friend, and her friend told to my maternal grandmother that she is facing this problem. Then my maternal grandmother said that if you give birth to a girl child, then give to us, and if you give the birth to a boy, then you take him. So finally I was the girl child, so my maternal uncle's family took care of me.
So your maternal uncle took care of you.
Yeah.
And he spent for your education.
Yeah, everything he has done, guidance, whatever support I need during my education, and he has supported.
So it's the uncle you supported. Now what the parents say, you are very successful.
Yeah, they now they are happy, and
Now they are happy with the
they
girl
give the
child.
example that he has done this much, but at that time they didn't support.
This research, international collaboration, that's a great thing in your career. So what advice you give to the budding scientist here who wants international collaboration and recognition for their research?
So I think the collaboration is always very useful for the research. If we do the collaboration, then we
How to get contacts with them? How?
Okay, so there are many things like these days because of the networks, very good network connectivity. Either we can email to them, we can find the profile of them, and if someone is doing the similar type of work, then we can approach by doing email. And other things is that this time there are so many plans by Indian government. For example, recently this Indo-France collaboration policies was there. Under these policies, like you can collaborate with the French scientist. So for that you have to apply for the funding, and Indian government will give you the funding, and then you can visit their research and labs.
In your case, your PhD guide was Israeli scientist.
PhD?
How you
My
get
PhD
contact?
guide was Indian, but
Then how did you get contact with the Israeli?
so I searched the research institute and then I approached him.
Or after this postdoctoral research in Israel, you returned to India and continued your research here, and along with teaching at IISER. So this is a perfect example of reverse brain drain.
Yeah.
That is the need of our country now. So what's your advice to the youth here aspiring to immigrate to the Western countries through job and study visa like that?
So
Now it's very increasing here. That's why I asked.
they migrate to the foreign country. So like before it was in some sense it was trouble to get good education and good research facilities, but nowadays like these good institutes are emerging as IISERs, IISc Bangalore was initially there, IITs. So these are the good institute in which you can get the research facilities. So I think like it will help in stopping these migrations.
Then what about the fellow scientists who after PhD they migrate to Western countries for better opportunities? Then some say that it's difficult to publish their paper from in international purpose from India.
Yeah, this problem we also face. Like when we are outside, then it is easy to publish the paper, but in the same journal, if we want to apply from the India, then it is little bit difficult. But the collaboration can help. Yeah, this is the reality.
So what can we do for this? This is a great problem. So from India, it's very difficult to publish
Because,
a paper.
like,
Easy to publish paper through international collaborations only. So what the government can do to support our scientists here?
So the government should have to increase the funding for the research. Second thing is that like to publish a paper, there are some editors and reviewers. So I think in the main editors in the good journal, there are very few, or I don't think so there is chief editor in the good journal from the India. So like if we increase that number as editors in a good journal, then this problem may be solved.
That's a very good point. Recently, China overtook US in publishing research papers for the first time. It's in the news.
Okay.
So now most research papers from China than the US.
Yeah, it depends on that.
So how China worked out this?
That I don't know.
So we need to study from China.
Yeah.
Looking ahead, what's the next area of future research in this field? You earlier told that these unstable systems.
So like in this paper we find out the whether the system is stable or not. So my next level is that we can find the level of stability. Some systems are more stable, some systems are
now
less.
you studied whether the system is stable or not, or and the stability depends on what are the factors.
Yeah.
Now the next level is
We can check the level of stability. Suppose some systems are stable, 4-5 systems are stable, but can we classify that which system is more stable, which system is less stable, and can we find out this perturbation pattern? So finally in previous study we see the final stage only, because the stability means when we perturb the system from its equilibrium state, finally the system recover back to the original state or not. This tells the stability. But next thing is that how this perturbation patterns follow. So depending on the, as I told you, that this stability, whatever the behavior depend on the topology and dynamics. So using these two basic ingredients, I will see for a particular system how this perturbation patterns follow.
then any guidance to the aspirants in this topic, and budding scientists in this area?
So like this is
What's the future of this research for them?
So these days, like now, I think that we have reached in such a state that many theories has developed as a individual, mathematical, social, or biological. But now the challenging task is to solve the real problem. So to solve, for example, to solve this climate phenomena, we need the help of the climatologist also, the modeling part also, the scientist, the biologist, this understand environmental scientist also. So we have to come up with all by combining the ideas of the climatologist or environmental scientist and mathematical modeling scientist also. So like now in this era, the main challenging task is to understand the real problem, and we have to combine the knowledge of all the basic science courses, and by combining the knowledge of all scientist or engineering problem, all these things we have to combine, and using the knowledge we have to solve the real problem. So my research areas lie in this interdisciplinary field. So in interdisciplinary field, like for example, to solve a complex system, like we need the mathematical modeling, simulation, numerical things also, and we have to understand the systems mechanisms also. So this is like interdisciplinary field. So this has a bright future, like in future or further it will be very important in studying of the further research problem.
So all type of subject experts can come here, that is ecology.
So these days, like every
mathematics.
institute are opening this IISER sciences courses. So they are making the bridge between the two branch of the science, or they are making the bridges among the scientists and engineers. So and that on that bridge point my research is lying. So to solve the many real problems, this area of research is very interesting and challenging.
So this is also an emerging important field.
Yeah, so this is like an emerging field.
Yeah. How is work life at IISER, the student-teacher relationship? Any hierarchy here?
Yeah, here the work life is very good, calm and very friendly. So there is no hierarchy. So
is hierarchy good for a research institution?
No. Hierarchy is not good at all. So here like
student teacher are equal.
So we treat as equal. Even a student or a teacher or even the director and dean, if we feel some difficulties, then we can approach easily, and they also try to solve our problem and as much as they can.
How is the life here in Kerala when compared to your home state, Rajasthan?
Yeah, this is like very natural places, so we feel very greenery and calm, peaceful life. But at our place that much greenery is not there. But like
but you miss your home.
I miss home, and second is the language problem.
Okay.
So many times we don't understand what they are saying or not. But in professional,
but the students are from all over India.
Yeah, all over India. But like locality, when we go to the shop and everything, then sometimes they don't understand.
Dr. Meena, thank you for sharing your story and knowledge with us. And you are truly inspiring, and we wish you all success in your current research and future research also. Thank you once again.
And thank you very much for giving me time.
This is any interviews before this?
No.
This is the first interview, so I am honored.
Yeah.
Thank you.